Hey guys, hope you all are having a wonderful day. I have been wanting to start doing some video essay style content and figured I would start out with a shorter game, and one that I love dearly, which is Little Nightmares. Little Nightmares is a sort of dollhouse stealth horror platform puzzle game whose art style certainly won me over the first time I saw the trailer. Though I will cover all that in the actual video, obvious spoilers ahead for the game story and gameplay mechanics, and thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Little Nightmares begins with a sort of hazy dream scene. After a few seconds, you can see the form of a tall woman with black hair and a mask who we will end up seeing for quite some time. After the sequence, we awake with our main character Six, and Six, as you can see, is very small, awakening after sleeping inside of a suitcase with room to spare. Going off to the right, you can see that Six is small enough to fit inside of the small ducts that you can find in this place. Armed with nothing but your lighter, you move throughout the duct, trying to find your way out. Dropping down, you will notice this place seems to have a sort of sea vessel aesthetic to it, with the barge doors, the fog that has set in, as well as the faint rocking of the environment. A detail that I personally love, though for those prone to motion sickness, I can see that this effect is not to your liking. Up the stairs, you can find a doll that when grabbed and thrown will shatter. These are a sort of collectible in the game. Collecting all of them does give you an achievement, but outside of that, you don't really unlock any extra outfits or anything. Pushing forward, you can see some furniture including a couch, a dresser, and a bed, showing that someone either lives here or has lived here in the past. Above the bed is another convenient vent for you to squeeze through. Dropping down, you can see what appears to be the inhabitants of this area who is role-playing a mistletoe for the sake of YouTube's guidelines. What is even more messed up is due to your short stature, you must scoot the chair that this individual had used and use it to elevate yourself enough to reach the door handle. This definitely will not be the first time you will have to get creative with navigating the environment due to Six's size. Up ahead, you can see some more environmental platforming needed to progress, but if you continue forward instead of up, you can find a small crevice Six can squeeze through. Inside, you will find a lantern you can light as a checkpoint, as well as a little gnome who is only slightly smaller than you are, whom you can give a quick squeeze to comfort. These gnomes are also collectibles, though they play a more important role in the game than the dolls do. After climbing up and progressing further, you will come to a hole in the flooring, though before you can reach said hole, the floor gives out from under you, and you land in total darkness. Lighting up your lighter, you can see you are surrounded by some sort of leech-like creatures who will inch towards you trying to nab you. Running around and jumping over them allows you to escape fairly easily. You can definitely become overwhelming if you allow them to surround you, though these are definitely the easiest enemy you will come across. Moving forward, you will come to a larger open area. At the end of this area, you can see some bed sheets that were tied together, used by somebody who would have had to have been Six's size to escape from the window above. With the camera panning up, you can see a human-like creature with long arms dragging a cage into the next room. The creature is what you would say as normal size compared to Six. Climbing up the rope and progressing forward, you will come to a playroom filled with various toys and activities. The volume of things in this room alludes that you are not the only child who is present on this vessel. Just past that room, you will come across a hallway lined with cell-like doors. These other children, like you, are being kept here against their will. Just on the other side of this hallway is a larger open area. Within this room is also more cells, as well as a large eye emitting a light that is scanning the area. Up ahead, you can see a few statues of what looks like some of the other children, who happen to be the same size as Six. These statues are placed within the gaze of the eye, telling you those who get caught by this light will be turned into stone. How that works, I have no clue, but I'm just going to go with it. Moving past the light and climbing up, you will come to where all of these children are being kept, sound asleep in their beds. Progressing into the room is where we get our first intimate encounter with the creature we saw earlier, busting through the door, seemingly checking on the children to make sure they're all in their beds. You can just make out his form in the darkness of the room, his arms significantly longer than they should be, while his legs have a more stout size. The creature walks to the left, going into the room you just came in from, and closes the door behind him. Walking through the room, you can see a dozen or so other children just like you sleeping in their beds. Past this room are some cages stacked up, sized perfectly for children the same size as you. These cages do double as ladders for you to navigate the environment, climbing up so you can find another handy duct for you to squeeze into. Landing in the next room, Six curls up, grabbing her stomach as it begins to growl, showing the intense hunger that has overcome her. Moving forward, you can see through some small bars that there is a cafeteria of sorts in the next room. Six's stomach growls again. This time you can tell it's causing extreme discomfort. As you stumble further, your stomach growls again, this time catching the eye of another child who is sitting in the cafeteria. This child, once seeing how hungry you are, slides some food through the bars for you to eat. Grabbing the food, Six will devour it in seconds, after which the child will sit back down in the fetal position they were sitting in before. After progressing forward a bit, we come to another room with a surveillance eye looking for the children up in their beds. I wanted to highlight this room in particular because the solution to making it past the rooms takes advantage of the fact that you are on a rocking boat. You must wait for the boat to rock to the right, moving the janitor's supplies bin to the right, keeping you out of the eye's gaze. Not incredibly impressive when explaining it, but it's just something I found noteworthy in regards to the atmosphere of Little Nightmares. Moving forward, you will come across another gnome in the side room who is in need of comforting. Now, solving this room's puzzle took me longer than I care to admit. What you're supposed to do is drag this chair over to the pressure plate tile in the front of the closet that opens a false back. Inside of this room, you will find the gnome, but what is more interesting is you will find a monitor that shows some other rooms on the ship that you're on. The first screen monitoring the children you ran past who are still fast asleep in their beds. The second screen showing some gnomes who are doing their own thing. The third showing you a food storage filled to the brim with meats and breads, far better than what you've been given so far. The fourth screen showing you someone's housing somewhere on the boat. And the final screen showing you this belongs to what appears to be the woman we saw, that vision, at the beginning of the game, who seems to be humming to herself while she knits something. But we'll have plenty of time to talk about this woman later. At the top of the stairs, you will come across what appears to be the bedroom of the creepy long-armed creature we have come across earlier. At least based on the pictures of him hanging up on the wall, this appears to be his living quarters. There isn't much else to this room other than the puzzle showing you how keys work. When you grab a key, you have to continue holding onto it until you approach a locked door or drop it on the floor. It's not too annoying, though they fix this in the next game with you pocketing the key until you use it, which I saw as a definite upgrade. Once you have pushed forward enough, Six will start becoming painfully hungry again. Only after a short time, walking forward for a bit, you will come across some meat left in one of the cages that you've seen lying around. After climbing inside so you can feed yourself, you'll see a very familiar set of hands come down and trap you inside the cage, leaving you in darkness. Part 2 opens up with Six trapped in a cage, surrounded by many others just like it, each filled with children who had been captured by the long-armed creature, who enters the scene almost immediately, dragging away one of the children. Standing up, we can escape our cage by bumping back and forth against the walls. After escaping and moving to the right, you will see a lever dangling out of reach from the ceiling. Dragging one of the cages containing a child will allow you to get high enough to pull the lever. The door itself is timed, meaning you need to hustle to get through it, which I definitely did my first try. Making it through the door, you will be met with another door that you will be unable to open. Turning back around, you can climb up the grate on the door that just closed behind you. At the top, you will be met with some creaky floorboards, teaching you an important lesson we will soon utilize regarding noise. On the other end of the room is yet another vent for us to climb through. Dropping down, we will land on some cloth, teaching us yet another lesson we will soon use. Landing on the cloth tells us that jumping and moving on it will suppress the noise of our movements. Up ahead, we get our first real encounter with the creature known as the Janitor. When we approach him, quietly utilizing the cloth to make sure he doesn't hear us, we catch him preparing what looks like the bodies of other children, wrapping them in cloth, then sending them away on meat hooks, leading to the next room. Running forward across the wooden floor, we alert the Janitor, causing him to turn around, giving us a proper, good look at him. From what we can see, the Janitor appears to be blind, with the skin on his head folded down over where his eyes should be. The only way he can navigate is through sound and touch. While trying to make it to the next room, we end up alerting him to our presence. In the next room, we can see a triangle hole with a lever that matches. Grabbing it and attaching it, we begin turning it, opening the hatch on the other side of the room. Just as we open the hatch, the Janitor runs into the room, attempting to grab us. Jumping into the hatch, we barely escape his reach. Down the hatch, we land on some shoes, finding ourselves in another vent. Moving forward, we land on a suitcase situated in a room filled with the old shoes. For any of those who have been to the Holocaust Museum in DC, this is very reminiscent of the pile of shoes on display from the victims of the Holocaust. A haunting sight alluding to the sheer amount of victims this place has claimed. Pushing through the shoes towards another suitcase, something within the shoes begins to chase us. Climbing on top of the suitcase does save us from its grasp. Moving from suitcase to suitcase, we finally make it to the other end of the room. While progressing, we can hear movement above us, most likely the Janitor moving about. Moving into the hallway ahead, we get confirmation that noise was in fact the Janitor, who dropped down right behind us. Sprinting forward and sliding under a pipe, the Janitor gives chase, nearly catching us as we reach the elevator and hide behind a box. The Janitor follows us into the elevator, pressing a button locking us in with him. Once the elevator starts moving, he begins to feel around, trying to find us. Getting closer and closer, just as he is getting close to finding us, we are saved by two gnomes who grab his attention and run out of the elevator, the Janitor following close behind. With only one of the doors to the elevator open, we have no choice but to follow him. In the next room, we are met with a box of blocks, as well as a monkey toy with some symbols. On the other side of the room is a door that has no way to open it. Pushing against the blocks moves it off of a loose board that will allow us to move under the floor, past the locked door. Looking up into the adjacent room shows the Janitor fiddling with what looks like dolls. Remaining under the floor, going into the furthest room, shows a room filled to the brim with similar looking wooden dolls, all of them the same size as Six. Going back to the center room, there are some planks we can use to exit the crawl space. Once above, there is one of those noisy monkeys laying on the floor. The janitor seems preoccupied on the furthest room, blocking the only way for us to progress. Going back to the middle room, we can throw the monkey toy, which alerts the janitor, moving him out of our way. Climbing up the dresser, we knock over a jar that was resting on one of the drawers for some reason, alerting the janitor to our presence. As he moves into the room, stretching his arms to try and find us, we move another box of blocks out of the way, revealing a vent for us to escape through. As we emerge from the vent, we can see the janitor moving up to the floor above us, the dark room only containing some broken furniture. As we open the door on the far side of the room, we knock over a large clock, making a loud crashing noise. As we move forward, the janitor drops down from the ceiling, attempting to find the source of the noise. Luckily, most of the room is covered with fabric, allowing us to move quietly. Grabbing one of the shoes on the floor, we can throw it up at the button on the wall, opening the door. This also alerts the janitor to our presence, though running through a hallway beyond past more clocks loudly chiming, the janitor doesn't appear to actually give chase to us, allowing us to escape to a room with stacks of books spread across the room. Climbing up the bookcase at the end of the room, we can see a piano swinging from the ceiling. Once it gets close enough, we can jump on it, using it to reach another bookcase on the other side of the room. As we reach the top, we are met with the janitor making another appearance, climbing down from the ceiling and moving towards the next room we need to go to. Just ahead, we can see another triangle hole, meaning we need to adventure forward to find the lever to fit it. Creeping forward, we follow the janitor into the adjacent room. When we enter, we can see the room closely resembles a library, with bookshelves extending upwards towards the ceiling. Climbing a stack of books in front of us allows us to navigate above the janitor, avoiding his path. As we move forward, there are several toys that rest on a plank connecting two bookshelves. Though before we get across the beam, we encounter one of my only problems with this game, and that is depth perception. I'm not sure if this is just a me thing, but I seem to struggle at some parts with figuring out quite how deep I am in the environment, causing me to plummet to my death more times than I care to admit. Though a fairly minor complaint in the game, I consider otherwise perfect. Moving our way back to the plank, we end up knocking over some toys, alerting the janitor. Realizing that the noise from them will alert him, you can drop one of the blocks on the other side of the shelf, luring him to the other side of the room and allowing you to make it to the other side relatively safely. After making it to the other side and climbing up and through the wall, you drop down into another room. In front of you, you see a lever, but unable to open the door yourself to leave with it. At the far side of the room, however, there is a TV with a button you can push. Pushing the button turns on the old tube TV, loudly playing what looks like a cooking show. But more importantly, alerting the janitor to the room. He quickly makes his way to investigate the sound, opening the door for us to escape. Luckily, the noise from the TV does cover the sounds of us running back to the hole we need to place the lever in. Once we place the lever and start cranking, however, the noise from lifting the piano is loud enough to grab his attention. Hearing the audio stinger that plays when he's on his way, we quickly turn the handle, trying to get the piano high enough to allow us to jump across. This is no issue though, as we jump across the gap without him even coming close to catching us. Crossing through one of the many vents in this game, we come to a room with a railroad track leading us forward. Following the track, we see steam coming up out of a pipe blocking the track. Though we are able to jump across the gap itself, we soon realize we need the cart at the other end of the room to get enough height to reach the door. I know, not a groundbreaking puzzle, but it breaks up all the sneaking around. Getting the cart to the other end of the room, we jump up and open the door, revealing a huge chasm leading down. Crossing along the wall, we make it to, you guessed it, another vent for us to pass through. As we move forward though, we come to find out this vent is different than the others. Once we move forward enough, we discover the janitor has discovered how we've been traversing the environment, sticking his hand through a hole in the vent, searching for us. Turning around, he sticks his other hand in, trapping us in this area of pipes. Looking forward, we see there is a chance for us to progress without his hands catching us, narrowly escaping his grasp. Dropping down, the door immediately starts jiggling. The janitor quickly emerges from the door. We quickly start running forward, the janitor hot on our tail. At the end of the hall, we make it to a door being held slightly open by a cage being crushed under its weight. Foolishly, I try to grab it, and I do get caught. Though respawning in the room, what we need to do is when he pulls his hands away from the cage, pull on the bars, tearing pieces of the cage free, weakening it. After pulling the 2 bars free, the cage finally gives, slicing the janitor's arms from his body. The janitor retreats as his arms wriggle with what life is left with them on the floor. Climbing into the newly opened vent, we move forward, trying to escape this place we have found ourselves in. Waking up in a vent, we push forward. Making it out of the vent, we can see meat hooks moving above us. Running to the end of the room allows us to climb on top of what looks like a body bag and grab onto the moving hooks, elevating us to a new area. As we climb higher, we notice the shadow of a figure having a smoke break before moving into the area we are heading towards. Dropping down, we land onto a vast pile of bodies waiting for processing. As we make our way down the pile, Six cringes in pain again from hunger. With the thumping of our heartbeat, we move forward searching for food. Entering the next room, we see a rat, seemingly doing the same thing we are. After spotting us, scurries away as we wince in pain again. Off in the distance, though, we can hear one of the mouse traps laying around clamped shut, likely catching the rat we just saw. Moving on, we fall to our knees from the hunger. Inching forward, we can see the rat trapped in the mousetrap, still alive. With no other choice, we bite the rat on the neck, killing it, showing just how far Six is willing to go to feed her hunger. Satisfied for now, we climb up some bins containing more bodies and move on to the next room, which is also filled with the same bins filled to the brim with bodies, all much larger than Six, showing it's not just children that are being victimized here. Progressing forward, we drop down into a pantry filled from top to bottom with an assortment of vegetables and jars, showing if we had just made it a little further, we would have been able to eat something a little less alive than a rat. In the next room, we encounter our next obstacle, a bloated chef, likely the same figure we saw smoking when we first entered this area, who appears to be preparing cuts of meat for cooking. The shelves in the room also covered in small cuts and a large fish ready for cooking. As we try to sneak past into the main kitchen, he discovers us quickly giving chase. Though hiding under a small table, he seems to give up the chase quite a bit easier than the janitor before him, treating us more like a kitchen nuisance than an actual threat, showing it's not really his job to catch loose children, and will only try to give chase up until it interrupts the process of cooking the food. As he moves on, continuing to cook, we get his attention once again by accidentally closing the door to the oven. Though as he gives chase, we yet again are able to evade him with relative ease. As we wait for him to move on, we do notice him lifting the skin of his face, revealing, like the janitor, that what looks like his skin must be some sort of mask, covering whatever these creatures truly look like. Finally moving away, we climb up the cabinet into the rafters above the room, moving to the second level of this area. Entering the second level, we emerge in a bathroom with 2 very interestingly placed toilets. As we progress, we enter what looks like a bedroom, with 2 beds pushed together much like the toilets. One bed empty, but the other has the shadow of a figure resting in it. At the far end of the room, the single light source illuminates the key we need to progress further. Jumping up on the radiator, we manage to swing it off of the key hook, though the noise from the key hitting the floor wakes up the sleeping figure. As he rises from the bed, he turns on the light to reveal there is not one, but 2 chefs that prepare the meals for this place. As he exits the room, we grab the key and proceed to the elevator, descending to the first floor. Moving through familiar territory, I get reckless and end up getting caught. Showing that when the chefs catch Six, they carry her to an oven and place her inside to cook her. Respawning, we grab the key and move to the far end of the kitchen, finally unlocking the large metal door. In the adjacent room, we come to what looks like a large meat grinder on the far side of the room, a vent we need to enter to progress further, but with no way to catch it. Pulling the lever drops a piece of meat into the grinder, which when turned will create a sausage link, not quite long enough for us to grab onto though. Climbing into the dumbwaiter lifts us into the room above, with various pieces of meat around the room. Placing all of these on the trapdoor, then moving back down to the first floor and opening the trap will drop all of them into the grinder, giving us enough sausage to swing into the vent. Emerging from the other side lands us in a freezer, with more body bags hanging on hooks and laying on the floor. Just outside the freezer, we can see another elevator, as well as another locked metal door. Pulling the lever on the elevator brings it down to our level, with one of the chefs along with it. Running back into the freezer, we can hide in a box to evade capture. The chef looks in the box resting on top of one we are currently hiding in, looking for some ingredients. Grabbing a piece of cheese, he moves further into the freezer, allowing us to get into the elevator, though the noise from the elevator does alert him to our presence. After exiting the elevator, it immediately begins descending to the first floor, meaning one of the chefs will soon be on their way. To the right, there is a small vent we are able to climb into, so he won't be able to catch us. Emerging from the elevator, the chef will give a quick look around for us before continuing into the next room, pushing the button on the wall, giving us access to the same room. This room appears to be a second processing room, a lot like the one on the first floor, with the chef preparing what looks like an indescribable mound of flesh. On the same table, the key we need to unlock the door downstairs. In the next room, we find what looks like a garbage disposal of some sorts, with a body bag sticking out of it. There is also a button placed at the perfect height for us to press. Turning on the disposal, of course, alerts the chef, leading him away from the table and the key. Running into the next room, we grab the key off the table and make our way back to the elevator. Though stepping into it, we once again alert the chef that we are headed back downstairs. Quickly unlocking the door and pushing it open, we manage to get into the room and hide in a small crate, just as the chef makes it back down. Shortly after the doors open, the chef runs into the newly opened room, searching for us, though he quickly gives up and proceeds to the next room. Our only way forward now is to open the garbage chute and fall down. Landing at the bottom of the chute puts us in a room filled with a random assortment of garbage. Though at the far end of the room, we spot a corrugated wall we can use to climb up and into the subfloor of the room above. Walking forward reveals this room to be a dish room, with both of the chefs hard at work cleaning the thousands of plates stacked high. The sheer number of plates tells us this place feeds more than just a few people, dining on seemingly the dead bodies of men, women, and children victimized by this place. Emerging from beneath the floor, we hide under a sink waiting for the chefs to break away and give us an opportunity to move forward. Moving to the center sink, We climb the stack in an attempt to reach the meat hooks moving above us. As we climb, a plate falls off of the stack, alerting the chefs that someone is moving about. Though grabbing onto the hook, we are well beyond their reach. The only problem is, the hooks are moving to the left, leading us back into the room we just came from, dropping us onto a previously unreachable shelf, meaning we need to find a way to get the hooks moving in the other direction before proceeding. Moving back into the dish room, we make our way to the far side, into a secondary dish room. On top of the shelf, there is a lever that is currently switched to the left. Moving it to the right will make the hooks start moving into the next area, but the noise from the machine switching gears does alert the chefs to us once again, though climbing under the table does allow us to hide from them. Making our way back to the middle sink, we are ready to finally escape this place. Though before we make it there, one of the chefs does spot us. With no time to waste, we begin climbing the stack. Desperately reaching for us, we grab onto one of the hooks and begin moving off to the right. As we begin moving, one of the chefs runs into the back room, while the others give chase, trying to keep up with us. Entering the next room, the other chef is there waiting for us, ready to grab us off of the line. Though I do drop down too late, he ends up nabbing us. Respawning where we were supposed to drop down, we can begin running away from the newly emerged chef, climbing under a table to avoid him. With the second chef bursting into the room beside us, we climb a couple of boxes and ride the hooks into the chasm, with the chefs throwing bottles at us trying to knock us down. Though with how terrible their aim is, it allows us to escape through a pipe sticking out of the wall. Emerging from the other side of the hole, we begin running along a large pipe leading across the void we are in. A large door opens above us, letting what looks like daylight shine through, showing just how close we are to making it out of this place. At the end of the pipe is a tall ladder leading up to a hole with sunlight shining out of it. Crawling through the hole, we emerge outside the ship. Through the daylight, we can see hundreds of large figures boarding the ship from another adjacent boat. We climb the Lanker chain to reach the next level, watching as figure after figure piles out of the boat. As we climb back into the ship, we move along balancing on a steel beam. Below us, we can more clearly make out the shadowy figures boarding the boat. They appear to be rotund people, most of which are wearing masquerade masks. All of them shuffling in a line into the ship. From their size, we can guess they are here to feast on the delicacies the ship offers. Climbing into the vent at the end of the beam and proceeding into the next area, we come across more industrial pipes, all hidden away behind the walls, keeping the ship running. As we make it to the end of the pipe, we can see more people shuffling in, all of them rather large in shape. More interestingly, we can see a change in scenery. Instead of grimy industrial pipes and vents, we find more traditional Asian woodwork and decorations. Climbing up the side of the structure, we can see a shadow overlooking all the boarding guests, the shadow very reminiscent of the humming woman we saw back in Chapter 1. Climbing through a small hole into the new area, we jump from light to light, avoiding the attention of the guests. If they are any friends of the monsters we have encountered before now, we obviously don't want to be caught by them. Through the doors ahead, we come to a room with mounds of various food piled up on all the tables, with shadows of already seated guests gorging themselves shining through the sheets. In the next room, we can see a singular guest who appears to be chowing down on more than his fair share of meat. Though slipping into the next room, we knock over a bottle, grabbing the attention of another guest. This guest, after seeing us, begins reaching for us, falling out of his chair. As soon as he hits the ground, he begins crawling after us, trying to catch us so he can gorge down on even more flesh. Climbing up at the end of the room, we seemingly slow him down as he tries to make the climb himself, though we don't have much time. In the middle of the room, there is a familiar stack of dishes. Jumping up onto the table, we begin climbing the stack and swing on a lantern, all while the woman seated at the end of the table desperately tries to grab us, most likely for the same reason the last guest tried to get their hands on us. Though, due to her size, she is unable to jump up to reach us, allowing us to make it through the window into the next area. Ahead, we see more guests gorging themselves. At the end of the table, we see a vacant stool, tall enough to allow us to climb onto the table. As we run across, we have to dodge the arms and hands of the ship's patrons. Weaving back and forth, we make it to the end of the table, climbing up to the next level. At the top, there is, of course, more guests devouring food. Climbing up and over the fence separating the back part of the environment, we get the attention of 3 guests sitting at the table. Like the man downstairs, they all fall on the floor and start crawling trying to get us, though we can easily escape by swinging on a lantern hanging above a chasm leading to the first floor. In the next room, we can see rows and rows of more people feasting, showing the sheer number of people this place feeds. As we near the end, a guest spots us and drops down, blocking our way forward. To get past him, we will need to run to the end where he will trap himself under a shelf, letting us jump on his back and run to a hole at the end of the room. Making it to the other side, we find an elevator with a lever slightly out of reach, though we won't be waiting long for it to arrive on our floor, revealing one of the chefs has come to check on the guests, though quickly spotting us as we run to the other end of the hall into a bathroom, hiding in a crate just inside the room. Shortly after, the chef enters the bathroom, and after giving a quick scan of the room, runs out just as quickly as he came, slamming the door behind him, leaving us seemingly no way to escape the room. There does appear to be a crack in the mirror on the wall, though. Throwing one of the cans through the mirror reveals a back room for us to slip into. Climbing up the grate in the hidden room allows us to slip into the rafters above, giving us access to the elevator the chef came down on. Riding the elevator up, it becomes concerningly quiet, with only the sounds of the guests eating to fill the silence. After moving into the hall, one of the doors quickly opens, revealing a pile of guests just behind it. Running down the hall, guests begin spilling out of various rooms, crawling and climbing over each other trying to get to us, destroying anything in their path. Slipping under and over tables, seemingly doing nothing to stop them. Moving into the next hall, they all come crashing just behind us. Making it to a table with more guests, we run across as the seated guests try to desperately grab us as the ones chasing us. Though making it to the end of the table, we make it to a lantern, allowing us to swing into an area unreachable by the horde of gluttonous guests. Slipping through the door, Six becomes hungry once again, though this time it seems to affect her quite a bit more than the few times before this, the sound of her stomach growling even louder than ever before. In the next room, we see one of the many friendly gnomes offering us a sausage to feed our hunger. Inching towards him, we accept his offer. Feasting on the gnome until he becomes nothing but a pile of goo, Six's hunger is quenched, whether it be the things Six has seen or this place she finds herself in itself doing it. Something has changed in Six. Moving forward and climbing up to the next level, we can see the woman from the first chapter entering an elevator. Grabbing a jar on the floor, we can throw it to call the elevator down. Entering it, we ascend to the final chapter. Making it to the top, we exit the elevator. Moving into the next room, we come to what appears to be some sort of living quarters, though it doesn't appear much has been interacted with in quite some time. With mannequins and books spread around, climbing up to the first set of stairs, we see a door with a lock on it. Moving further up the stairs, we can see the walls covered in photos and paintings of people and strange things. As we near the top, we can hear a very familiar hum. Moving into the room, the humming gets louder. Moving forward, we can see the woman standing with her back turned to us, brushing her hair into a broken mirror. As we continue on, we make it to her bedroom. Pushing the jar off the end table reveals the key for the door downstairs, though the humming from the next room has also stopped. Though the woman is clearly aware of our presence, she appears to not be actively chasing us. Grabbing the key, we proceed downstairs. Unlocking the door reveals a dark hallway. As we run through, a shadow slams the door shut behind us. As we run through the room, we can see it's filled with more mannequins. As we make it further, the woman appears behind us, out of one of the mannequins, gliding across the floor after us with an inhumane moan. Sliding under the shelves, we manage to escape her. Running through the hall, we find more mannequins, though luckily the woman doesn't appear out of any of them. At the end of the hall, we enter another large room with even more mannequins. At the end of the room, we can find the only mirror in this area that hasn't been broken yet. Grabbing it, we move back into the room we just came from, though this time the woman is standing there waiting for us. As we get close to her, she disappears, leaving only a small part of the room illuminated. As we enter the lit area, she appears behind us. Shining the mirror in her direction, though, does hurt her, causing her to move away and moving the small lit area. After doing this a few more times, we finally defeat the woman. Waking back up, we find the mirror broken, but more importantly, we find the woman weakened on the ground, with her mask out of reach. As we move towards her, Six begins to grow hungry. Walking up to the woman, who almost extends her neck inviting us in, Six bites into her. After doing so, the dark energy that seemed to possess the woman moves into Six, cutting to black. Waking back up with flickering lights, we emerge back in the last area with the gluttonous guests, though this time, when they try to devour us, that dark energy in Six seems to consume them instead. taking it to the end of the room, killing everyone within. The large metal doors open for us, revealing sunlight. Moving up the stairs, Six emerges into the world beyond, leaving behind the horrors of them all. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I love Little Nightmares more than I do a vast majority of games. Between the dark Studio Ghibli art style and the designs of the environments and creatures, the game always has me coming back at least once a year to play it. And with the third installment on the horizon, I absolutely cannot wait to see what the developers have in store for us. Of course, if you haven't played Little Nightmares, I highly recommend it. Even if you've watched this video all the way through to the end, I would say the game is still well worth playing. And at that, I thank each and every one of you that took the time to watch this pretty long video on a small game. I'm new to these essay-style videos, and if you have any suggestions for improvements, I would love nothing more than to hear any feedback. I have several games I'm wanting to do similar videos on, though if anyone has any suggestions for future videos, I'm willing to play and make videos on just about anything. Anyways, this video's gone on for long enough, so again, I thank you so much, and I hope you have a great one.